This motor is a 12 horsepower Whizzer. I'm making this video to show people when they're buying motors what to look for. The easiest way to make sure it has fire, in other words, making sure spark is going into the core to the spark plug, is the easiest way to do that is by spraying brake fluid or carburetor cleaner inside the carburetor. Then start the engine. If the engine turns and starts with carburetor cleaner, then you know you're having fire. But to make sure you're getting fire on both pistons and spark plug and everything is firing correctly, disconnect one boot and then spray carburetor cleaner in again. If it starts, you know it's good. Spray it again, take the bottom boot off, spray it again, then you know both cylinders are working. Spark is both of them are working. If the next thing to do is when you're trying to test any motor is to make sure, a lot of people make this mistake, is make sure you have the primer facing towards the motor, not going back into the gas tank. That's the biggest mistake I see people make. The second mistake I see people trying to test run these motors is not completely put it on start or past start. Put the throttle all the way on start. As soon as you want to test run it, as soon as you know that you have spark on both spark plugs and you want to test run it, make sure you got gas going into the fuel pump and going into the carburetor. As long as you know there's nothing spilling, nothing's happening. Be careful how many times you prime the ball, because if you over prime it, what happens is you flood the engine and it won't start. It'll run, it might not start, it might run for a little bit and then die. Number two thing is that if you just keep pulling the rope, or you're wasting your time because you flood the engine. Let the engine sit, or just keep pulling the rope, but don't over choke it all the time. If you do that and you leave the choke on, you're flooding the engine. As soon as you want to start the engine, you put it on choke, you put on full start, you pull the rope or start however you start it, either starter, whatever. As soon as you hear the engine go, you make sure you take that choke off quickly. Because if you don't, you're going to flood it and it'll take a while before it starts, and you're just going to keep starting and it'll never start. So if it won't warm up, keep choking it, but choke it fast, slow, and slow. That will make sure you don't flood it, but make sure you warm it up. A lot of people make a mistake not warming up the engines. What that means in mechanic terms, warming up your engine, it needs to be able to warm up. In other words, a car has to warm up, so motors have to warm up. If you don't warm up your engine and you're trying to keep starting it and not, my point is that you got to let it warm up. Let it run for a couple minutes before you put it in forward. As soon as you warm up the engine and it dies, but it runs, it dies, or it misses, or you need to idle the adjustments. If the adjustments are not correct, your motor won't run properly. Summertime, you run it differently in wintertime on 2 strokes. So what you're going to do is turn this knob all the way until it stops. And you're going to count 1.5, 1.5. Do it 1.5 and stop. Then what you're going to do is turn the bottom one. That's where your gas is. Not up here, down here. That's where this gas goes all the way into your fuel pump, all the way to your carburetor. And this is the one that's critical, because this is the one that matters. Because this is the one, how much gas flow you're getting. If you put this and you make it too much gas flow, you're going to overrich your engine, and your engine ain't going to run right. It's going to foul out your spark plugs all the time because you have it too rich. You want it lean sometimes, and you want it rich sometimes. If you have too much oil in your gas, you do not want it rich. If you have less oil in your gas, you want to try to lean it out. So in other words, that if you're putting too much oil and you're rich in it, you're going to foul out your spark plug, and your engine's going to smoke and won't run properly. So you always remember your engine needs to be either rich or lean, but it depends. So what you're going to do, you're going to turn this knob all the way to the very end to the right. You're going to do the same thing you did to the top almost, but you're going to count 1.5 turn, 1.5 turn, 1.5 turn, and a 1.5 turn. And then what you're going to do is turn it all the way a little bit to the right. You're going to start the engine. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the right until the engine revs up and stays revved up. And then as soon as, because you can do this all day long in neutral, but it won't matter until you actually go out into the lake. So go out into the lake, like I showed you already how to start it, and show you how to make sure it runs. Now you're going out to the lake. A lot of common problems are that a lot of people just do this method in neutral. You're going to put in forward, you're going to run full throttle. And then what you're going to do is you're going to adjust it until you go out of the lake and you start planing out and you go faster and faster. And then you're going to leave it there. And then you're going to slow down and get your idle adjustment correctly. And that's the top one. Until you slowly run the engine. You run the engine until it idles slowly. And then you're going to leave it alone. That's how you make sure an engine runs properly and runs right. There's a lot of other things you can go wrong with the engine, like the diaphragm can be busted, carburetor needs to be clean, jets, but that's the basic stuff. If the engine runs, that's the basic steps to get any motor, old or new, not too new, but old, running properly. Thank you for your time.